Well, hello. Welcome to the most unusual tarot podcast on the internet or anywhere else, as far as I know. That's because it deals in reality. It's not that hairy fairy stuff, the rainbows and all that kind of thing that you get from so many other readers, not just in terms of tarot, but in terms of astrology and numerology. People like to talk the fuzzy talk. It appeals to a certain group. Let's get out there and go woo, 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 woo. But there's nothing solid, nothing tangible, and you live in a 3D world. So you got to deal with the 3D. You got to deal where you are first. And that's what this podcast does. It's not for everybody. It's for people who are conscious, curious, caring people. And they want to get right down to it. How can I, number one, fulfill my spiritual destiny? Number two, make sure that I can make my life a little better, if only by controlling parts and pieces of it. That's the point of this whole thing. So tarot is the science of potential. I've done tarot for over 20 years. For me, it doesn't predict anything. You might get lucky once in a while, but it doesn't predict anything. But what it is the science of potential. Your potential. Your ability to manifest, to make pictures in your head, to make movies in your head, not from some damn screen, laptop, desktop, smartphone, and certainly not from artificial intelligence. There is enough information, enough data at this point to be able to say that the more you are connected to the electronic, the technical stuff, the more screwed up you are, emotionally, spiritually. You get dumber, less creative. And so it is not a positive. People like Steve Jobs kept their kids away. Bill Gates kept his kids away until they got to be 13, 14, and then they carefully watched them because they knew what this can do to somebody. So I come here knowing that and saying, okay, let's flip the script. Let us, instead of making this thing that we're dealing with a negative, let's make it a positive. Let's help you manifest. Let's help you pick up the kryptonite that you're going to need. So we do tarot. That's the prime focus every day. And today's message is basically, you got a fork in the road. Got to make a choice. And at this point, it feels like heads, they win, tails, you lose. Because right now, it's an uphill battle. And it's much tougher because most people, I wouldn't say everybody, but most people would not want to hear the truth. Mark Twain says it's easier to fool somebody than it is to tell them that they've been fooled. People don't want to hear that shit. Don't want to hear that. There's ego involved. There's ignorance involved. And so it stands in the way of them becoming better, tapping into the 5D just rather than staying in the 3D. And so that's what we work to do. We focus on tarot, your science of potential. But that's not enough. Because that potential energy that you get from a reading, and I want to make it clear, I want to make it so that by the end of the reading you know precisely what that energy is. But you also have to know what's the environment this energy is coming to you from. And that's where I use astrology and numerology. Astrology and numerology, 50 years I've delved into those things. They are the sciences of cycles. Cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles. And it gets to be, I got to tell you, hellacious to try to sort that out. Chop suey doesn't even say it. It's crazy. And I've never run into an astrologer yet in my 50 years who really did that well. Because there's just too many parts and pieces, and people who do the astrology love to show you, impress you with their great astrological, metaphysical brilliance. And in the end, you walk away from a reading going, so what am I supposed to, how is this supposed to help me? It doesn't. They get trapped in the minutia. The minutia is good little planets, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Moon, even the Sun, as you're looking at your chart. All that stuff is good to kind of time situations, I suppose. But there's just too many parts and pieces floating. So what I do is I take the tarot and say, okay, this is your potential. But where can you apply this potential? The astrology comes in. For example, coming up in about a year, July 4th, 2026, the United States will have its 250th anniversary, if it survives. 250 years ago, we had the planet Uranus and the planet Pluto in a certain specific set. They were in certain signs and had a relationship with one another. 250 years, because it takes 250 years for Pluto to go around, boom. Those two are back again. And look what we have. The same kind of a sense, the same kind of a feeling that we had during the American Revolution. Pluto, evolving. Uranus, revolving. Revolution. Remember, right after the American Revolution, the French had theirs too. And there were a lot of other things going on a planetary basis. And that's what's going on here now. We know we have to evolve. We're looking forward to evolving, whatever the hell that'll mean. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing, by the way. It can be a very bad thing as well. Plus, we're also looking at revolution. How do we take this dream of evolution, positive evolution? How do we get it going? And that would be revolution. And you can take revolution on several different layers. But we're at a point right now where we have to act. Because as I said, the theme for today's reading is you're at a fork in the road. And what that fork feels like for most people is heads they win, tails you lose. There's no third positive option. At least that's the way it feels. That's the way they want you to feel. So if you can manifest within the context of the astrological energies, it gives you an advantage. Gives you that kryptonite that you need so very much. So that's the key. Before I move on, I want to remind you, I have done an email thing, and I'm going to experiment with it because I really am not that good at responding, but I'm going to try to get better. It is tau-tarot@proton.me. Tau-tarot@proton.me. Email me, and I'm going to see if I can't get better on responses. We can start up little communications, that kind of a thing, because it's important for me to know you're out there because, frankly, I'm out there half the time. And usually it feels like by myself, but that's not true. I got it. It's okay. So here we got the numerology and astrology. We apply whatever kind of spiritual geography we can with those two, and then we focus on the tarot, the potential. You got the energy. What's the field like? You combine those two things, you get a much better picture. So we got that straight. We got that set. How about if we move on to astrologic? This is the astrology part of it. For the past week or two or whatever, I've been focused on the conquest of America because we are coming up to our 250th anniversary in a year. And I figure this is a great time and a great opportunity for me to tie in what I just talked about. Take the astrology, numerology, and apply it. Make it like a table for dinner. You're going to make this fancy, fabulous dinner, your favorite dinner of all time, expense not considered. You're just going to lay out the best of the best of the best. That table setting, that grouping, that's the astrology, numerology. The tarot is the meal itself. So we begin with astrologic. We've been talking about how right from its inception, back when Columbus first arrived and shortly thereafter, how Europe saw the opportunity for wild riches, and that's what guided their hand. Also created a lot of wars, a lot of grief, a lot of bad stuff went on. By the time we got to the Revolutionary War, the colonists had had enough. Britain was killing them with taxes, and it wasn't really England. It was the Rothschild bankers who helped set up the Bank of England. that was the deal. We're going to set up this bank. We're going to give the king the money for war that he wants, but he has to give us this bank. We name it whatever we want. They may be shareholders, but they don't control the bank. We, the Rothschilds and similar people, control the bank. And from that point on, they took charge of England. Well, you got the colonies, and they started to take charge of the colonies, and the colonists said, up yours. Not doing it, Bubba. Not doing it. And so we got into this battle, and eventually we won. I think that surprised the bankers in England that these upstarts, the colonists, could defeat them. They don't like that. But that's what happened. And then we started growing as a country. One of the things that we did as a country was established in something called the Buttonwood Agreement, 1792. What we did was we set up Wall Street. 24 New York City merchants, along with the Rothschilds, set up Wall Street. What that really meant was the banking casino opened up for business. Same difference on Wall Street is, you're playing roulette. The people with the money control. They set the system up to favor them. It works for them. It doesn't work for you. They give you just a little taste, a little nibble, just to keep you in the game because they can use their money to get richer. But it basically is a casino. Wall Street's a casino. It's run by the same people who run the banks. There's no difference. There's no distance between them. And the astrology was Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto involved, all in air signs, late air signs. And I think, as I remember, Jupiter and Neptune were conjunct. So Jupiter brings a lot of, Neptune is fog. Can be insight, but it very often is just fog, and you can't really see clearly. And then Pluto as well. Interesting thing, Neptune and Pluto were retrograde, so you weren't getting their full force. So what the deal is Jupiter, you have this energy to move forward, with the Pluto to have this dream, financial dream, with the Neptune. But the Neptune and the Pluto are retrograde, so you're not seeing the whole picture. Just the way they want it. The Rothschilds weren't going to make a big deal about them setting up Wall Street. They weren't going to make a big deal about owning the Bank of England. They weren't going to make a big deal about anything that they were involved with because they always want to stay behind the scenes. That's what CEOs, by the way, are used for in corporations. Chief Executive Officer sounds important, right? Chief Executive Officer. They're the fall guy. If the shit hits the fan, you don't have to go back to the Rothschilds. That's the CEO. Get rid of them. Never hear about the Rothschilds. Never hear about the people who are packing away the pennies. Same thing with the Buttonwood Agreement in 1792, setting up Wall Street. There was a big promise. Oh, man, great. This is going to be fabulous. Yeah, it's going to be fabulous for the people who run the casino. Not going to really... Again, you're going to get a little taste, because if you don't get a little taste, you're not going to stay in the game. The deal is to have you stay in the game so they can make the money off of you, so they can get richer. And you see what happens to Wall Street. It falls apart all the time, just like they want it to when they want to squeeze some more profit out of Wall Street. So that's how it started, 1792. Let's go over to the meme of the day. One of the things that is disquieting right now for a whole bunch of people is the fact that we're finding out stuff we don't want to know about. So you have here this big iceberg. At the very top, government corruption we've seen, we know about. But look what's just below the waterline. And people are beginning to understand that's the real deal. You don't even have a clue about the bullshit that's been going on since the beginning of the country. But we're beginning to find out, and it is kind of overwhelming. Missing link for today. Funny to me that people think it's germs causing them to fall ill. They don't consider the pesticides, the herbicides, the glyphosate, the Teflon, the fluoride, the plastics, the forever plastic chemicals, seeds, and vegetable oils, artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, chemicals, GMOs, antibiotics, EMF, radiation, toxins, parasites, carcinogens. We got the stuff surrounding us. You don't have organic anymore. ever since they started glyphosate, and most especially they started chemtrailing the skies, that stuff comes out of the sky, falls on the ground. There is no such thing as organic. This crap is in the food you eat, the water you drink, your skin, laundry, body care. It's in the environment. Remember we just did that thing about the iceberg? It's the stuff that you can't see, that you don't recognize, that's causing the problem. Let's move on. Let's go to the tarot. 9 of Swords. This is the way people feel. Ooh, baby, baby, baby. It hurts just to look at her. All those swords are pieces of information. Lies. We thought they were true. We believed they were true. We wanted to think they were true. Turns out they're not. So what do? Well, we have to reformulate our value system. We've been sold a line of goods. Oh, capitalism is good. Capitalism is this. When you look at the history, capitalism has never, ever, ever, ever done anything positive for the average person. Oh, you may get a little taste, just like Wall Street, little taste. 10 years, 5 years, maybe 15. But the bankers will then come back and squeeze a little bit more out of you. You have to change your value system. Peace, love, friendship, health. Those are the things that are important, not the crap that they're shoving down our throat. Because if you don't change your pentacles, if you don't change your value system, they win. So you got to go enthusiastically forward into the future. Ace of Wands says positivity, 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 gratitude, joy, happiness. That's the antidote. That's the medicine to the 9 of Swords. That's what allows you to build a better quality value system. Believe, believe, believe. We're out of time. Jeez, I wish. Yeah, we're out. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Very important. Between now and the next time you and I do tarot together, peace and blessings.